1844 America, the land of the free, the land of opportunity, the land where an immigrant could find hope, prosperity. But not if you don't fit in, not if you are not white, Anglo-Saxon and Protestant. And if you happen to be Irish and Catholic, then prepare to answer for it, papist. Today, when discussions about the suffering of migrants, deportation and prejudice arise, the experiences of Irish immigrants to the United States are often overlooked. Yet, their arrival in America was marked by extreme hostility, discrimination, and systemic efforts to erase their identity and limit their opportunities. From the moment they set foot on American soil, the Irish were treated as a disease. Protestant America viewed them as filthy, drunken, subhuman, and a threat to the nation, its faith, and its very existence. These perceptions were fueled by deep-rooted anti-Catholic sentiment, economic fears, and ethnic biases that placed the Irish at the bottom of American society. Irish immigrants, particularly those who arrived in the mid-19th century, faced employment discrimination on a massive scale. Signs reading "No Irish Need Apply" (NINA) were commonly posted on job advertisements, effectively shutting them out of many industries. They were seen as lazy, unreliable and untrustworthy, unfit for anything but the most dangerous, low-paying and degrading labour. Many were forced into back-breaking jobs like railroad construction, canal digging and coal mining, where injury and death were common. But their suffering did not start from USA. For centuries, the Irish had suffered under the British Empire. Oliver Cromwell's purges in the 17th century had slaughtered thousands, sold tens of thousands into slavery, and left their land in ruins. Penal laws stripped Catholics of their rights, making them second-class citizens in their own country. The Irish had endured famine, war, and brutal occupation. Then, in the 19th century, they fled. The Great Famine of the 1840s left 1 million dead and forced another million to seek refuge across the Atlantic. But in America, they found no mercy. The old enemies arrived the land before them and formed the bulk of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, commonly called the WASP. They arrived starving, desperate and clinging to their faith, and for that, they were despised. Much of the ruling class of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants feared the Irish for one major reason. They were Catholic. And in their minds, Catholicism meant one thing: loyalty to the Pope over the Republic. The Irish weren't just unwanted, they were the enemy. Political elites, newspaper editors and Protestant ministers warned that the Irish were part of a grand Catholic conspiracy to overthrow the American way of life. Led by the serpent-tongued Louis Charles Levin, they spread lies that Irish priests were training soldiers in church basements, that Catholic schools were breeding radicals, and that the Pope would soon rule America. The Irish lived in slums, forced into the most dangerous jobs, digging canals, laying railroads, cleaning sewers. They were used as expendable labour, often cheaper than slaves. But despite the backbreaking work, despite their loyalty to the nation, they were not considered American enough. And in Philadelphia, 1844, the WASPs decided to send the Irish a message in blood and fire. This is the story of the Philadelphia Bible riots. It all started with a Bible. Not a protest, not a war, just a simple request. Catholic children in Philadelphia's public schools were forced to read from the Protestant King James' Bible. Their parents, already persecuted and overworked, asked for a compromise: let their children read from the Catholic Bible instead. Hugh, a Catholic school director, tried to reason with them. He saw the rising anti-Catholic sentiment in Philadelphia and hoped that through dialogue he could ease tensions and find a peaceful resolution. But reasoning with a mob fueled by religious fanaticism and political paranoia was like trying to stop a storm with words. His appeals fell on deaf ears. Bishop Francis Kenrick, leader of Philadelphia's Catholics, asked only for fairness. But fairness was never the goal of the nativists. Anti-Catholic hatred wasn't based on logic. It was a movement fueled by fear, propaganda, and centuries of religious prejudice. The Protestant establishment saw the rapid growth of Irish Catholic immigrants as a threat to their monopoly on power. To them, the issue was never just about which Bible was used in schools, it was about who controlled America's future. And they were determined to keep Catholics out of power, out of influence, and out of public life by any means necessary. Lyman Beecher, a fire-breathing Protestant preacher, called it an assault on Christianity. A staunch advocate of Puritan values and Protestant supremacy, Beecher viewed Catholicism as a foreign authoritarian threat that endangered America's religious and moral fabric. In his book, A Plea for the West, Beecher stoked fears that Catholic immigrants were taking over and that the Vatican was conspiring to dominate America through mass migration. He encouraged Protestants to resist Catholic influence by any means necessary, arguing that if they didn't, America would become a puppet state of the Pope. Samuel Morse, the man who invented the telegraph and known for the Morse code, called Catholics a satanic force, trying to erase America's values. To him, the influx of Catholic immigrants into the United States was a calculated effort by the Vatican to destroy American values and enslave the country under the Pope's rule. In his book titled Foreign Conspiracy Against the Liberties of the United States, he argued that the Pope and European monarchies were secretly working together to infiltrate and overthrow American democracy by sending waves of Catholic immigrants. This book became a major inspiration, fueling mob violence against Irish Catholics. And Louis Charles Levin, the fiery leader of the anti-Catholic Know-Nothing Party, who wasn't Anglo-Saxon, nor was he even Christian, yet he became one of the most ruthless crusaders against Catholic immigrants in America. As the first openly nativist politician elected to the US Congress, Levin helped shape one of the most xenophobic and anti-Irish political movements in American history. His rallying cry? We must defend the Bible, or the Catholics will take our country from us. And just like that, in May 1844, the situation exploded. Protestant mobs, whipped into a frenzy by anti-Catholic speeches and inflammatory propaganda, descended on Irish Catholic neighbourhoods in Philadelphia. What started as protests quickly turned into all-out violence. Thousands of Protestants flooded the streets of Kensington, an Irish Catholic stronghold. Armed with rifles, clubs and torches, they waved American flags and demanded that the Irish submit. The Irish refused. Gunshots rang out, screams echoed through the streets. The first man to die was George Schiffler, a Protestant. His death became a rallying cry. The mob turned into an army. Irish homes were set ablaze, businesses were looted, women and children were dragged into the streets and beaten. Then they came for the churches. St. Michael's torched, St. Augustine's reduced to rubble. Priests and nuns barely escaped with their lives. As the fires raged, one nativist leader, John Perry, stood before the ruins and said, "If there was one Catholic left standing, we didn't burn enough." The Irish wouldn't go down without a fight. They took up arms, bricks, pistols, iron bars, anything they could use, and in the alleyways of Philadelphia, they fought like hell. But the odds were impossible. The Protestant mob had numbers. And then, the military arrived. The city had a choice: protect the Irish or side with the mob. They chose the mob. Soldiers lined up in the streets. Instead of dispersing the rioters, they fired into the Irish crowds. Bayonets, gunfire, more blood in the streets, and still, it wasn't enough. 2 months later, the Protestants weren't finished. This time, they brought cannons. Thousands surrounded St. Philip Neri Church, demanding its destruction. When the Irish barricaded themselves inside, the military didn't try to stop the violence. They joined in. The US military on American soil bombarded a place of worship, not in wartime, not against an enemy nation, but against its own Catholic citizens. When the dust settled, the message was clear. Irish Catholics had no place in America. Not one Protestant rioter was punished. The churches remained in ashes. The city turned a blind eye. This was a brutal wake-up call for Irish Catholics in America. The violence and destruction showed them that pleas for fairness and assimilation would not protect them. Power would. If they wanted a place in America, they would have to fight for it, organize, and take control of the political system that had long oppressed them. This realization gave birth to the Irish political machine, the Tammany Hall system, that would go on to dominate American politics for generations. In cities like New York, Boston and Chicago, Irish immigrants built a network of political alliances, patronage and community organisation that allowed them to seize the levers of power. Tammany Hall, originally a Protestant-dominated political club, was transformed by the Irish into a stronghold for Catholic immigrants, offering them jobs, legal protection and political influence in exchange for loyalty. With time, Irish-led political machines elevated their own people into positions of power, from city council members to mayors and even presidents. By the late 19th century, Irish Americans controlled many of the largest cities in the US, a stunning reversal from the days when they were attacked in the streets as foreign threats. The hatred didn't end there. It evolved, mutating into new forms of bigotry, exclusion and political warfare. The same supremacist fear that fueled the Philadelphia Bible riots found new life in movements like the Know Nothing Party, the Ku Klux Klan, and the battles over religion in public schools. By the 1850s, the mobs that burned Catholic churches had transformed into the Know Nothing Party, a powerful anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant force. Their goal? Strip Irish Catholics of rights by blocking them from political office, delaying citizenship for 21 years, defunding Catholic institutions, enforcing Protestant teachings in schools. The Know-Nothings won governorships and major offices, threatening to erase Irish political influence. But the Irish fought back, and their own political machines crushed the movement, proving power, not pleading, was their path to survival. Irish Catholics built a parallel education system, establishing Catholic schools to shield their children from Protestant indoctrination. In the early 20th century, nativists pushed for laws banning private Catholic schools, trying to force Catholic students to attend Protestant-majority public schools. In the 1960s, Supreme Court rulings like Engel v. Vitale banned school-sponsored prayer, leading to new waves of Protestant outrage that Catholics and other minorities. Even today, debates over religion in schools, immigrant identity, and cultural dominance carry echoes of the same fears, the same fights and the same prejudices that erupted in the Philadelphia Bible riots nearly 2 centuries ago. Religious and ethnic hatred never truly dies. It waits, it festers and switches target. And if history has taught us anything, it always comes back. The ghosts of these riots still haunt America today, in policies, in rhetoric, and in the way new immigrant groups are treated. And the next time someone tells you the Irish had it easy in America, tell them about Philadelphia, 1844.